Welcome to the Vine Resources podcast show. Welcome to today's episode of the Vine Resources podcast show. Today I have with me Kimeshan Naidoo. Kimeshan is one of the co-founders and CTO of Unibuddy. Thanks for joining me.
No problem. Really glad to be here.
Well, look, why don't we just find out if I can share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and the company?
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently the CTO of Unibuddy. Originally from South Africa. My background is in electrical and computer engineering, and I moved to London to study a master's in computer science. And basically, myself and my two co-founders, we started Unibuddy to solve our own problem, and that problem being that we were all in the UK from foreign countries studying here as postgraduates. And before we came here, we didn't have any way to find out real information about what we're going to study at the place we were going to study from real students. So we decided to develop a platform that would connect prospective applicants at universities to current students over an online chat. And that is what our core product at Unibuddy does. It's a platform embedded on university websites that enables prospects to have an online chat with current students who are studying the same course that they want to study at the same university that they want to go to.
Fantastic, and what a great idea that is. Can you obviously you've got about 10 employees at the moment. You're based in London in Old Street, is that right?
Yes, just 5 minutes from Old Street. Yeah.
Fantastic, and you're just over a year old, really, is that right?
Yeah, we initially created a marketplace, and then we pivoted around March last year to sell our platform to universities and have it directly embedded on their websites, which makes a big difference.
Can you share with our listeners what a typical day in the business looks like for you right now as the CTO and one of the co-founders?
Yeah, sure. So right now our engineering team is still quite small. So there's 3 full stack developers, including me, and a machine learning engineer. So I still spend the majority of my time, I'd say around 60%, working on the product architecture and implementing features through code. So still 60% doing engineering and implementing features and products. Right now we're growing really quickly because we're just closing our second investment round. So we're looking to triple our engineering team by the end of this year. So we'll be about 12 to 15. And so I spend around 20% of my time hiring and interviewing candidates. And the other 20%, I'd say it's more reviewing code, planning, and more managerial tasks. So that's how I would say roughly how I split my time in general.
Fantastic. And look, is there perhaps anyone that you can name who's already had tremendous impact on you as one of the leaders in the company, and even maybe someone who's been a mentor to you, and how they're currently impacting your life or have done already?
Yeah, sure. I think when you build a company, the culture is really important, and so my co-founder and our CEO Diego, I think I've learned a lot from him over the past year or so, in terms of the leadership style he's brought to the company, which has had a big influence on our culture, and I can identify three really important things which I've learned from him, and I think could go a long way towards building a great culture in any company. So one of them is the ability to make people that you work with feel valuable, and that's easier said than done. And I think one of the ways, there are multiple ways of doing this, but one of the ways to do it is to always involve people in the decision-making process of it in as many aspects in the company as possible, especially when you're a small team, say below 15, because it is possible to have people involved in different things, including product design, sales, things like that. The second one is follows up from that. So you have valuable people, and they need to be fairly compensated. So in terms of like how you go about splitting equity, how you go about salaries and bonuses and things like that. I really found like him to be very fair with how he's handled it, and how every person that has come on board, all 10 of us since starting, has been valued fairly. And the third thing, when you're starting a company, you have lots of ups and downs, and as you grow as well, and a lot of people will doubt whether you can do a lot of things. So being able to have this unwavering assuredness and positivity in a way, is something that really helps, and you need to, and it comes from having confidence in your team, and having confidence in your team that they will find a way around anything that comes up. So you don't really need to doubt if you can solve this problem, or get over this issue, if you know you have a great team, and you show them that confidence, and that actually, it's sort of self-enforcing, because when you have confidence in your team, they become confident, and they end up solving all these problems, and you find your way around everything. I would say those three things have made a really big impact on my life, and I've tried to do these things as much as possible as well, um, on my team, on the engineering side.
What about employee engagement? Obviously, as a young company, you're growing quite quickly. So, what are you doing from the top to keep your current employees engaged and future ones?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So engagement is always a difficult one, though. I would put it down to one thing, based on the experience I've had, and that is autonomy. So if your employees feel like they have autonomy, they will also feel like they have ownership. And when they have ownership of a product or a project that they're leading, they're going to be engaged. Nobody can have ownership and not be engaged. So one of the ways to give people autonomy is first, trusting their ability. So allowing them to take lead on projects, allowing them to handle a lot of the decision making on projects, and also making sure that they feel that they have the ability to question decisions made in different things. Giving people autonomy is absolutely critical, and this goes really far towards employee engagement.
Fantastic. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing business leaders today?
Business leaders in general is a bit difficult, though I'd say in the tech industry, one of the big challenges facing leaders right now is the shortage of talent. So hiring in a tech company is one of the most difficult things right now. It always takes much longer than you expect, and it's a lot more difficult than you expect to find the profile that fits the skills you need and that fits the culture in your company. So attracting and retaining talent, it's an age-old problem, and it's going to continue being a problem, because there's a big imbalance with the demand and supply right now. And another thing related to that is, because of the excess demand, um, leaders have to adapt to new employee expectations. So employees expect to have flexible hours now. They expect to be able to work remotely sometimes, um, and they expect to be able to maintain a certain quality of life. And they can make these demands because they have a lot of options, and talented people are always going to have um, a lot of offers. So this is a really big challenge, knowing how to attract and retain your talent after that.
What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received so far?
Best piece of business advice. I think right now there's a trend, or it's a fashion, of people starting companies or starting startups. So the best thing I say is, the advice that I received was don't start something for the sake of starting something, but only start it if you can't think about doing anything else. So you need to care a lot about the problem you're solving. Because if you don't, at the first hurdle or the first difficulty, you're not going to have the motivation to get through it. If your first product doesn't work and you need to pivot, that's really difficult. And unless you care about the problem, you're not going to get through that, and you might have to get through multiple pivots and change your business model multiple times. So yeah, really care about the problem that you're working on.
Kimeshan, how are you helping a new employee understand the culture at Unibuddy?
So helping employees understand culture, it's a matter more about showing than telling. So I think you can talk about it all day long, or write about your culture, but it doesn't really mean anything. Employees will be able to tell a huge amount about your culture from day one, from the first meeting. So the best thing that can be done in terms of showing employees your culture is walking the talk. So if you say you value your employees' opinions and the culture is and you have a very flat hierarchy in your culture, then in the meeting, when you have a meeting and you're making decisions, that should be reflected, and you should be including them in the discussions as well. So yeah, I'd say just make sure you're actually walking the talk when it comes to culture.
What's the one mistake that you witness leaders making more frequently than others?
Mistakes made by leaders. So yeah, I think different leaders have different strengths and weaknesses. One of them that's very easy to make as a leader is needing to needing to show that you're a leader by making decisions, or by showing some sort of in a sense making decisions without consulting, or going against the team for the sake of showing them that you can overrule them. So I've seen this in teams in the past, and that yes, it you do have the power to overrule them, but that doesn't necessarily isn't gonna necessarily earn you the respect as a leader, and it isn't gonna make your team feel more valuable, if you're trying to do this. So I think yeah, just you should be doing the opposite, and making sure you're valuing your team's opinion, um, and going with your team on most things.
You mentioned a little bit earlier about the challenges of attracting talent, but I'm interested to hear how do you see your industry changing over the next few years, and how will that in the future affect your ability to attract and retain people?
So I think so. The tech industry is really hard to predict. There's a lot of people that have tried predicting what's going to happen in the past, and they've either got it miserably wrong, or they've got it pretty right, but with the wrong timing. Like we were supposed to have um, general artificial intelligence already, because some people made that prediction 20 years ago, but we're still far away from that. So some of the trends, I think, in terms of like talent-wise, the ones I mentioned with the rise of remote work and flexible work hours, it means that we could see talent being more dispersed. So we don't necessarily need to have all the talent in big cities, which is what normally happens. Big cities keep growing because they keep attracting talent. So I think we can see location independent, more location independence. Um, I think we're seeing big companies starting to become more and more dominant as well. So startups really need to understand the niche they're working with in order to compete with big companies, because they have their fingers in more and more pies as well. Um, and and that's going to become more difficult for startups to attract talent when you have big companies hiring thousands of engineers every year, and working in more and more industries, and on more and more products. So I think that's going to be a big thing. And the last thing I think that's going to have a huge impact, this one's it's cliche, but AI is going to affect pretty much everything, and not because AI is special, but basically because AI is going to be assumed at some point. So right now, companies go around speaking about the AI like it's something special and they're doing something different. But in the next 10 to 20 years, investors and stakeholders are going to assume, if you're a tech company, that you are using the latest artificial intelligence techniques, that you are using the latest neural networks. So it's not going to be a special source, but it's going to be like using a database. You don't go around talking about using a database. Everyone just assumes you're using a database and you're not storing your data on pen and paper in a filing cabinet. So I think in terms of the tech industry, employees are going to assume that engineers are proficient with AI. So that's going to become not an optional skill, but it's going to become a required skill, and that's going to affect the hiring and recruiting as well, of course. So those are the three main themes that I see in terms of how the industry is trending.
Thanks for sharing that. If you know, from your experience as of today, if you were giving your 20-year-old self advice again, what's the one thing that you would say to yourself now on reflection?
20-year-old, so that's like 6 years ago to me. I tell myself to buy Bitcoin, actually. No, but more seriously, I think it goes back to, if you look at the opportunities that have come up in the last 5 years, the real big ones have been applying machine learning to some problem. So I'd say like really deep diving into machine learning and starting to master it at that time would be the best advice you could give someone, and I would have given myself. And I still think it's good advice to even give today, because there's still going to be a lot of growth there, and we're just getting started um, with that section of the industry.
Kimeshan, thank you so much for sharing that with us. What's the best way for people, if they want to connect with you, reach out with you, or find out more about Unibuddy?
Yeah, sure. So you can find us on unibuddy.co. So that's our website, and we have a live chat there, so you can get in touch with our team directly. You can also send me an email at tech@unibuddy.co, and I'll reply to you, and happy to meet and discuss anything about the industry or products.
Fantastic. And look, I wish you all the best with Unibuddy this year, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
No problem. I enjoyed it. Thanks very much.